Hey everyone, my name is Rivaan and in this video, we are going to build a completely responsive Google clone which even fetches results from the terms we search. Let me show you the demo of the app. So first of all, you can see when our app is in mobile state, it has a bit different header. We can see tabs replacing Gmail and images tabs that can be seen in the web version. Then in our body, these buttons have disappeared. Now if I type in my web app, let's say Rivaan Ranawat and press enter, you can see it fetches the results of Rivaan Ranawat, and I should be seeing my LinkedIn profile, Rivaan Ranawat, my web portfolio website, my GitHub account. So I'll click on my portfolio website and you can see it opens up my portfolio website. Now I'll do the same in my phone. Let me type over here, let's say Flutter, and I click enter. We should be seeing Flutter official documentation. Now if I scroll to the bottom, you can see a previous and a next button. If I click on the next button, and you can see we are getting next 10 results from our app. Now if we go over here and again click on previous, we can see we are getting previous results from our app. This is called pagination that we are going to have in our app. There are even more features in this app that you probably haven't noticed, but we are going to implement that. The prerequisites for this tutorial is just to have a basic knowledge of Flutter and Dart. Things we are going to learn is how one can build completely responsive UI in Flutter and how to fetch results from an external API and display them on the screen. Let's get started. So the first thing we need to do now is go to our terminal, and I'm going to migrate to my desktop folder. And first of all, I need to show you the Flutter version we are going to use. So I'm going to type flutter -- version, and this will tell us the Flutter version I'm using, 2.8.1. Now let me clear it. And we are going to create a Flutter project. So we can do that by doing flutter create, and I'm going to type a name for this. So I'm just going to type Google clone tutorial, and this will create a Flutter project for us. Now we can migrate to our Google clone tutorial folder, and the next thing I want to do is open in my favorite code editor. So I'm going to do code and put a full stop, which will open it in VS Code. This is what I'm going to use throughout the tutorial. We can just delete this, terminate this terminal. Then I'm going to go in the lib and main.dart file. What I like to do first is remove all the boilerplate code, and I'm going to remove this. I'm even going to remove the theme data from here. I'm going to add a title of, let's say, Google clone. Let me also remove this root file. Right now over here, I'm going to add a text of which will be a constant. So I'm going to replace this class with a text and remove the title parameter from here. This is a pretty simple text that just says hello world. I'm going to run it on an external simulator. So what I'm going to do is press Ctrl J, which will open a terminal for us. And over here, I'm going to type open-a simulator. This will open an iOS simulator for us. I'm going to go in my options menu. I'm going to click on run, and we're going to run without debugging. And make sure that over here you have iPhone 13 or, else it will open in Google because we have two devices over here. Or if you have an Android emulator, then it will open in an emulator. So make sure this is iPhone or whatever device you want to open it in. This is just for testing. So let's wait till our app comes. Alright, now our app is loaded and you can see hello world printed over here. But I don't want this debug banner over here. So what I can do is go here and set debug show checked mode banner to false. This will remove our banner from here. Having that in place, the next thing I want to do is, display a screen over here. To do that, what I'm going to do is set the layout of our app first. So we are going to have a layer called responsive, and in this responsive folder, we are going to have a screen called responsive layout screen .. So with this, we are going to manage the responsive layout in our app and what screen should be shown, by the way. Like if you want to show a mobile screen or a web screen. So how are we going to do that? Let's figure it out. So over here, I'm going to import a material package, and it is going to be a stateless widget. I'm going to call it responsive layout screen, and I'm going to return a widget known as layout builder, we get a property basically which we can use, and it will return to us a context and constraints. So this context isn't that important for us, constraints is. So with this constraints we can call multiple functions on it, like if constraints dot, and if you scroll down you can see max height, max width, minimum height, minimum width. So you can call any of this and get the constraints of our device basically, right? So what do we want? We want max width, and in our constraints.max width it should be less than or equal to 768, let's say, because well, you can implement anything, like you can just go on an external website and check the size of the tablet or anything and just figure out a value on your own. I'm going to do 768, and if my constraints is less than 768, what I want to do is return the mobile screen. So I can accept a mobile screen from our constructor. So I can do final widget mobile screen layout, and I'm going to copy this and paste it again. I'm going to do mobile, I'm going to call this web screen layout, and let's require this from our argument. Having that in place, we need to return a mobile screen layout over here. So we can return that, and if the constraints doesn't match this, we are going to return a web screen layout. Cool. Having that, we need to go to our main.dart file, and instead of showing a text, what we can show is a responsive layout screen. We have imported that on the top, and we are going to make it a const as well. Now in the responsive layout screen, we need to pass in a mobile screen layout and a web screen layout. So for the mobile screen, we can create another file over here which will be called mobile screen layout.dart, and another file called web screen layout.dart. Now in a mobile screen layout, what we're going to do is import material package, and we are going to have, let's say, a stateless widget for now. This will change in future, but for now let's just keep it mobile screen layout. And we are going to return a scaffold with a body of text which says hello from mobile. I'm going to copy this class from here and paste it over here, and well, I'm going to press option over here and on the Mac screen so that I can have multiple cursors and I can edit, so that I can delete this and put in web. And the next thing I want is hello from web. Cool. Now I can import both of these files over here. So let's say mobile screen layout and a web screen layout. We will ignore these warnings for now, because we are going to have a property which will disrupt both of these. So let me hot refresh my app, and you can see hello from mobile over here. So to see it properly, what you can do is, well, wrap it with the center, and if you wrap it with the center, you can see hello from mobile. Now I'm going to run it from my web version. So to run it from the web version, we can run flutter run-d chrome. So this runs flutter run, and then in the debug version we want to run the chrome, and we can just do enter. We cannot run this, this from run and run without debugging again. I mean, you can, but it's not a very suitable thing, because in the debug console you get two consoles and it's a pretty big mess. So you can just run from the terminal. Now let's wait for our Chrome, and I'll see you then. So our web version has loaded up, and you can see hello from web showing up. So now if I reduce my screen size, we should see hello from mobile, and you can see our mobile version showing up. Pretty cool, right? Now the next thing I want to do is, I don't want this to be white color. So what I can do is go in our main.dart file, and over here we are going to have a theme of theme data .dark, and we want all the features that .dark function for us Flutter has created, and I want to just replace certain thing over here. So if I just do theme data.dark, you can see that we are getting this black color, but I don't want this black color. I want to replace it with the color that Google uses. So I can just do copy with, and we can have scaffold background color, which will change the background color of the scaffold. And you can see in the mobile screen layout we have a scaffold over here, and I want to set it to something. Now to get the colors, what I can do is go on this URL. I'll mention this in the description below. You can copy all of this and create a new file in the lib folder called colors.dart, and I'm going to paste all of these. Now after pasting this, we can just have the background color of, let's say what we named it over here, background color. So what we can do is import the background color from colors.dart file over here, and now save it. Now you can see a different color showing up. Now if I refresh my app over here as well, you can see this has also changed. Now the next thing we want to do is work on the web screen layout. So on the home screen, what we want to show, we'll work on that. So the first thing we need to do is create this header bar over here. So in our web screen, what we want our app to look like is over here we'll have our app bar, like this, somewhat like this. Ignore my bad hand drawing. And over here, somewhere over here, we are going to have a Gmail, and over here we are going to have the images section. Over here we are going to have an icon which basically tells us about the products of Google, and over here at the end we are going to have a sign in button. So we want this layout, right? So let us work on that. So to do that, what we're going to do is go to our web screen layout, and in a scaffold we're going to have a body, we're going to have an AppBar property, and in that AppBar we're going to have an AppBar widget, and the background color of our AppBar is going to be background color. Then the elevation is going to be 0, and then there's going to be actions, and these actions property will tell us like where do we want our widgets to be placed basically. So you want this at the end, so actions will tell us that we want to place it at the end. If you want it at the start, you can use the leading property, and you can have that by typing leading, right? But we want it at the end, so we're going to use actions, and over here we're going to have a text button because we want that to be clickable, and we'll just turn the on press to null, basically an empty function, not even null. And the text is going to be Gmail, and the style we're going to have is text style, and the color is going to be primary color, which we'll import from our colors.dart file. And you can see that the primary color here is basically primary, like the white color, right? The next thing we want is font weight, and the font weight is going to be font weight .w400. Now we can format this document. I'll put a comma here so that we can format it well enough, and we're going to save this. Now let's see what we're getting. We have to refresh this app, so we can just put R, and you can see Gmail showing up here. The next thing we want to do is show an images tab, so we can just copy this from here and paste it, and we'll have images. After that, we are going to have some width over here so that they both, so that we can have a difference over here, like a big difference and not just this much. So we're going to have a sized box of width, let's say 10. Then we can have an icon button which will tell us about the pictures that we want, so like the image, that icon that we want. So we are going to have an SVG file over here, which you can find out by going to the link over here, and this is the link. I'll mention this in the description below, and you can import download all of these files that we need. So what you can do is, well, go and download each of these. So after having installed that, I can go in my Finder in the downloads, and I can take all of these files, and well, to paste it, where we are going to paste it is over here. We are going to create an assets folder, and in that assets folder you're going to create an images folder, and we're going to take all of these files and paste them in the images section. Cool. Now we can go to our pubspec.yaml file, and we can uncomment all of this, and instead of having this, what we can do is assets / images, and we can remove all of this. So this will by automatically get all of the images in the images folder over here. So having that done, we can close this file, and now we can even stop this. But still, to render our more apps icon, this is the icon we are going to use. This is an SVG file, and we don't have any way in Flutter to use that SVG file. So what we can do is go to this package over here. I'll mention this link in the description as well. And we're going to import this Flutter SVG package. Now, instead of going in the pubspec.yaml file, adding this current version over here, what you can do is, if you're using VS Code, you can go in your extensions tab and find pubspec assist. And with this, you can have, when you click Command Shift and P, this should open this for you, and you can add your package. So this is a very cool extension of VS Code. So you can add this and add flutter_svg. If you click enter, it should add the Flutter SVG package in your pubspec.yaml file. Having that done, what we need as the icon is svg picture.asset. And over here, make sure to import Flutter SVG and not SVG. And in the asset, what we can type is assets / images / more apps.svg, which is the name of this file over here. So having done that, the next thing we want to do is again have a bit of width left. The last thing I want to do is have my button. So to do that, first let me run my Chrome version, and I'm going to do run without debugging, so that we get the nice hot reload function. And now let's try to create our button. So our button is going to be material button, which is the third type of button. Text button is there, which is the flat button. Then there is elevated button, which is a raised button. Now we want on pressed, and in this on pressed, it's going to be an MD function. Then there is going to be a child, and the child is going to be of the constant text sign in, and there is going to be a style, and the style is going to be text style color of colors.white. Now what I can do is format this document and save it. Now if I go over here and see that we got sign in over here, but I want this to be of the color blue, and we are not seeing our more apps icon still. So we can go in the debug console, and you can see that assets images more app SVG is not there, because we have misspelled the name. This is more apps.svg, and if we save, we should see this icon over here. Now there are two things to change. The sign in color over here should be blue, and this over here should be of the color white. So what we can do is, first of all, set this color to primary color. Right now I'm not setting primary color over here, because suppose if you want to add the feature of changing theme in your app, you want the text on the blue color to always show white and not primary color, which you'll change if you do the theme changing. We'll have a tutorial on that as well. So coming over here, what we need to do now is have a color over here. In the material button, what you can do is set the color, and the color is going to be blue color. Now if we save this, we should see that our app is loaded, but this blue color doesn't fit my taste. So what we can do is manually have a color of constant color 0x ff1a73eb. So with this, we have a blue color looking icon button, and now this looks pretty good, but we don't want it to take maximum height over here, right? We just want it to be something like this. So to change that, even if you set height over here, let's say it won't matter. Like let's say we will set 20 over here and we will save. You can see that there is no effect in the button change. It doesn't care about this height over here basically right now. So what we can do is wrap this material button with a padding widget, and in the padding we can have dot symmetric, and in the vertical direction we want 10, right, because we just want it from here. And now if we save, we should be seeing some padding left from here, but still this ticks from the right side. So to change that, we can't do horizontal over here, right? Because if we do horizontal, it will even leave some padding from here, but we don't want that. So what we can do instead is we can do dot copy with, and this will copy this padding and will give you extra property of top, left, right, bottom, anything, right? You can see over here. So we want it from the right side. So what we can do is right 10, and we can put a comma and save it. So now if you see, we have left some padding over here and it looks cool. Now let's work on the body section. So before diving in the code of body, what we want to do is first figure out how our body is going to look like. So let me catch the pen. And over here, how we want it is, first of all, we need a Google logo over here. I'll write G over here. And below that, we need a web search bar, which will be something like this. Then we need our buttons over here, which will be a Google search button. And then I am feeling lucky button. Then we need a whole set of translation buttons, which will say the languages we want to translate in. And then we will, at the end, we will have a footer, which will, be the footer which tells us how search works, privacy, and all of that stuff. So to do that, we need to figure out the layout. So if you think about it, well, this is a column, and inside that column, we will have another column, and all of the column elements will be this. And then we need to space out over here and then put a footer over here outside of the column. So there will be two nested columns, right? So let's do that. Now, first of all, let's have a padding, and the padding will be of the type constant edge and says dot only, and from the left we can have 5 and from the right we can have 5. Then we need to pass in a child, and then the child will be column, and the column will have children. Now in the children, I don't want this Google logo to be stuck over here like we have for hello from web. I want it to be spaced out from here. So what I can do is have a sized box, and I can have a height of media query dot of context dot size dot height. Now what I'm going to do is take this over here from here. I'm going to do cut, and I'm going to paste it in the build function over here before the return. And I'm going to call it final size is equal to this. And I'm going to take the size from here. So now I can use this size.height or size.width anywhere I want, and I don't have to write all of this stuff again. Media query, this big line over here. Now the height will be size.height, and I want it to be into 0.25, which is 1/4 the height of the total screen size that we have. Having that, we need to have an expanded widget so that it takes most of the space that it gets, and we will have a child in there which will be a column. Now the column will be main axis alignment dot space between, because we need to leave space between this column and this part over here. So we'll do space between over here. And then in the children, we will have another column. So 3 columns we'll have. So the first column is to make this kind of layout so that we can put elements below each other. And then we have another column to make space over here, and between this and this element over here. Now in the column we'll have children, and the children will be the web search part. So I'll rename this to search and not web search. And then I'm going to create in the widgets folder search.dart file. You can name it anything, even more, something more concise and precise. Now I'm going to import the material dart package, and we'll have a stateless widget. Now this stateless widget, I'll call it search, and we are going to return a column. Now in the column, what we want is main axis alignment to be main axis alignment dot start, so that it starts from right from the top, from wherever we start, and then a cross axis alignment of cross axis alignment dot center, so that from the center it doesn't care about this part and directly starts from in the center. And we'll have children, and the children will be a centered image of, well, our Google logo. So we can do child image dot asset, and we're not using SVG over here because our Google logo is in the PNG format. And then we can do assets slash images slash Google dash logo dot PNG. And then let's save and see the output. So first of all, we'll have to import this file. I pressed command and full stop to get the suggestions. And also we can put const over here. Ignore the warnings for now. Now, if we go back and see that we have our Google logo here, let me remove all of this stuff from here. We have our Google logo showing up. So I don't want this Google logo to be such a, have such a big size. So we can change the Google logo's height. Again, I'm going to create a final size variable, and I'm going to do media query dot of context dot size, and we can take the size from here and put it as its height, and we can do size dot height, let's say 0.15. It still looks a bit big, so I can just do size dot height 0.12, and I have it there. Looks pretty cool. I'm going to enlarge this so that we can pay more attention to this. Now the next thing we need to create is a box over here, which will be a search input. So after the center, what we can do is create another sized box, which will leave some space for us, and we will have a height of 20. We're not using size over here because the size is too small to get affected to our app. So you can just do this, but still if you want to do, then you can go ahead and use the size.height property and put something over here. After the sized box, what I want to do is have a text form field, and after this text form field, I want my decoration. So what is our the text input going to look like? So it will be a constant outline input border, and it will have a border side, and we want to give it some color. So what we can do is pass in a color of search border, and we can import it from our colors.dart file. After that, we need to pass in a border radius, and a border radius is going to be border radius dot all, and it will be radius dot circular 30, let's say. After that, we need to add a prefix icon. We have to pass that in the decoration. Let's see why we are getting this error. So we have this error over here because it has to be of the type input decoration and not outline input border. So what we can do is wrap a const input decoration. So this outline input border is for border, obviously. So what we can do is have this const input decoration, and after this border, you can take outline input border and pass this over here. Now we need to remove this from here and put this prefix over here. Now that is done, let me format the document, and we will have a prefix icon over here. Now the prefix icon, and we're going to have a suffix icon. The prefix icon is going to be a search icon, and the suffix icon is going to be a mic icon. So we have that images over here. So the prefix icon will be svg picture dot asset, and let's see if we imported the correct file. We haven't. So we'll put flutter underscore, so that it imports flutter svg package. Now the svg picture dot asset is going to be assets slash images slash search icon dot svg. Now this will have a color of search border and a width of 1 and a height of 1. Let me go over here and let's see why we are getting this error. And because we have put in a decoration in for the input decoration, we had put a const. We don't need to put that for there. We have to put it for the outline input border. Now if we format a document and scroll down, you can see that a prefix icon is there. Now let me save this and let's see, we have got this. Now this is extending till over here and I don't want that. So what I can do is put a width to the text form field. To do that, we have to wrap this with the sized box because text form field doesn't have a width property or anything. So we need to give its parent element some constraints so that it can take in the maximum constraints of its parents. Then the size box can have a width and our width is going to be size dot width into, let's say, 0.4. Now if we do that, you can see that this is fitting pretty well. And that's how we wanted it. Now the next thing we want to do is for the suffix icon. Our suffix icon will be svg picture dot asset and it will be assets slash images slash mic icon dot svg. And I don't think we need a width and height over here as well, so we can remove that. And we can put commas so that I can, format the document. And it looks much more organized. Having that, let me save and see if we're getting the mic icon. We are. But you can see the problem over here. These icons are pretty big. And if I set the width and height, you can see that nothing was happening to this search icon. So what we can do is to constrain their height is we'll wrap this with the padding. And let's see what we will get. So in the padding, we're going to add a padding of 8. And if we refresh, you can see that this icon has shrinked. So we can do the same for the svg picture.asset over here. Again, we can wrap this with a padding. And you can see that this has a padding over here. Now this has shrunk as well. It looks pretty cool. So our search field is also done. We will have another property that we'll set after we start working on the search results functionality, which is the on field submitted functionality. When the user clicks on the enter button, it should go on the next screen. So we'll work on that later. Now the next thing we want is again a bit of size box over here. So what we can do is again take this sized box from here and put it after the text form field. So we can have a sized box and paste it. We won't see any difference. So in the next part, what we want is search buttons. So what we can do is have search buttons over here. We'll create that widget over here. Now actually what we can do is instead of having a sized box over here, what we can do is cut sized box from here and put it in the column. So that looks more neat, right? And let's see if 20 is the value that we need. Now in the search buttons, we are going to create a widgets for a folder again over here, and we'll call that web, because these search buttons are only needed for the web part and not for the mobile part. And in that we'll create a search buttons.dart file. Here we'll again import the material package and we will have our stateless widget called search buttons. Now that search buttons will have a row and we'll have children, and again we need to center this, so we can do main axis alignment dot center, and the children will be row because we want it to be spaced evenly. We want the center, we want all of these buttons to be centered, but we also want them to be spaced evenly between them. There are only going to be the two buttons, right? This Google search and I'm feeling lucky. So I want them to be spaced evenly between them. So I can have a main axis alignment of main axis alignment dot space evenly. Then we can have children, and I'm going to make this const because the search buttons are going to be const. Now both of these buttons are going to look the same, but the only difference will be the text between them. So what I want to do is I will create another widget over here and I'll call that search button, so that if we make a change in one button, we don't have to manually do it in both the widgets that we have over here. Instead, we can just edit it in our in our search button.dart file. So we can import this, have material dart, and we can again create a stateless widget which says search button. Now it will accept a string, so we will call it final string text, and we will require this. We need to return a material button as usual. And the material button will have some elevation, but we don't want that, so we can turn the elevation to 0. And then we want to have a child of text title, not title, we call it, let's say, title over here, and we can pass this over here. That sounds more apt rather than text, you know. Then we can format the document. And why are we getting this error? This is because onPressed isn't there, so we can have an onPressed function which will be empty. Now if you want to add functionality in these search buttons, you can even import final function on tap, let's say, and then require this, but we are not going to add that functionality in this project, so I'm just showing you what can be done. Now we can import the search button from here, so we can do search button, and the title will be, let's say, Google search. After that is done, I want to see the output, so let me also import search buttons over here. And if I refresh my app and go over here, you can see Google search button showing up, but it's not the output that we require. So we can go in our search button class, and let's have a shape over here first of all, because we want it to be a bit rounded and not show up as a rectangle with sharp edges over here, as you can see. So what we can have is a rounded rectangle border and a border radius of border radius dot all, and the radius will be radius dot circular. I'll call it radius dot circular, and we'll type in 4. After that is done, let's save and again see our app. We can see the difference when we hover, but we need to pass in a color so that we can see it permanently. So we can have a color of search color, because we want it to be similar to this text field input. You can see our Google search button is showing up pretty well. Now we just want it to be a bit, longer and have some good padding. So we can add that padding. So the padding will be const edge insets dot symmetric, and from the horizontal we want 25, and from the vertical we will have 18. Let's put a comma over here. Now let's save and see Google search. Looks pretty cool, right? Now I can take this search button and put it again, and we can call this and I want to add a single inverted comma over here, but I can't because this is already single inverted. So to fix that, what you can do is, well, just add a slash over here. Then we can get I'm lucky, or you can just wrap this with a double inverted comma, and that will also fix the issue. But I'm going to go with single inverted. Then we are going to have I am feeling lucky, let's say. Right, now let's go and see at this, and you can see that we are getting this, but this is not spaced evenly. So what you can do is have a sized box of width 10, and if we see now, this is looking pretty cool. The next thing we want is, this part is done. The next thing we will want is, well, to have translation buttons. So again, we can take this sized box from here and put a size box again. Now we can remove these const, because I think the whole column is going to be a constant. So we can pass const over here. Then we will have again a sized box of height, and then we need to have translation buttons. So we can create that function, that widget as well. And in our widgets folder, we can have translation underscore buttons dot dart. We are going to import material dart and it will be a stateless widget of translation buttons. So in this translation buttons, what we want is, well, whenever the screen size decreases, for now suppose we can't see anything because we have added a responsive layout, but when our screen size decreases, we want these translation buttons, if the width of this falls short, we want them to go on the next line, right? So to do that, we are going to return a wrap over here, which will make the elements inside the wrap fall down to the next line if the width doesn't allow us to go beyond that. And well, the children will be, first of all, a text, and it will be a const, and the text will be Google offered in, and then the wrap should be, well, let's save it and import this. Let's save this as well. Now you can see Google offered in. Now I want the elements to be centered even if they fall. So what I can do is wrap alignment dot center. So the next thing we want is, well, to have our native language over here, right? Which will tell us Hindi, Bangla, Marathi, that is like the region where I live. So these languages I want to show up as a translation. So you can go on this link if you want to copy all of these, and well, I'll mention this link in the description below, and then you can just copy all of this and paste it. This is nothing but just the native language we want. So there is Hindi, Marathi, other languages I don't even understand, and we can save this. So this is nothing but having a width of 5, then having a text, and then again having a width, then again having a text, then width. So this language text widget I don't have. So let me create that. We can have language underscore text dot dart, and we can import the material package, and we will have a stateless widget called language. We call that language text. The language text will first of all have a final of string title, and then it will require this dot title. Then it will return an inkwell so that we get a little splash effect when we are on Android especially. And then in the on tab, we will have nothing, and the child will have a text of title, and we can save this much. Now we can go back over here and import this language text and import that. Now all of our errors are gone, and if we save this much and refresh our app, you can see Hindi or all of these languages showing up. But the only problem is we don't want this color. We don't want all of them to be white. So we can go back and have a style of constant text style, and I want it to be of the color blue. So we can type in blue color. Now we've used this blue color. We've tried using this blue color in our button over here, but it was too light. But over here, it seems like a good fit, right? So we have put this. Now this is coming into shape and looking a lot more like Google. The last thing we want in this screen is to have a footer over here. So let's work on the footer file. So this footer, as I mentioned previously, we are not going to have a footer over here because, well, it will only be somewhere over here. We want it at the bottom of our file, and that's why we have nested columns over here. We have added a space between over here so that this element over here is one column, and then we can have our constant web footer. So if we have this web footer over here, we can leave the space between this. So this can be one element and we leave some space, and then at the bottom we can have our footer, and that's what we want. So let's create this web footer. Now this footer is going to be accessible only in the web file. So what we can do is web underscore footer dot dart, and we are going to import the material package, and again it is going to be a stateless widget which will be a web footer. Now this will return a container, and after that we will have a color, and a color is going to be of the footer color type. Now the child is going to be padding, and the padding will be const edge insets dot all 5, and the child will have a row, and the row will have children. Now in the children, what we'll have is, well, another row, and that I'll explain to you right now. So let me shrink my size over here and let me get this a bit straight. So why are we using a nested row over here? Well, our footer is going to be somewhere over here, and we figured out how we can have that at the end of the file. So over here we're going to have, let's say, about, advertising, business, how search works. But the next things we want, like privacy, terms and settings, we want that over here, right? So how can we figure that out? Well, to do that, we will have a row. So all of these elements lie in one plane, and then we will have one row, and then the inside row will figure out that we want this element over here, which is one row, and then we'll have another element which will be this row, and then the parent element can be, tell space between, so that we leave space between both of these row elements. If you didn't understand, don't worry, we'll implement this in code and then you'll understand. I am going to erase all of this now, and if we go back to our code, we will have, well, row over here. The row will be main axis alignment dot space evenly, because the text over here is going to be about, advertising, business, how search works. So all of that need to be spaced evenly with whatever space we have. And after that we can have children, which will be a constant, and we can have some text over here. Now we want this to be a footer text. So how is our footer text going to be? Well, it's going to be a button again, and we'll create that in the widgets, because this footer text will be needed in our mobile as well, mobile layout. So we can have footer text, and we can import the material dart, and then we can have a stateless widget which says footer text. Now this footer text is going to be clickable, so we can return a text button, because you don't want any elevation to show up, and it should literally show up like a text which is clickable. So you can have an on pressed, which will be null for now, empty for now, not null, sorry. And then the child will be a text which has a title, and we are going to import this title. So we can have final string title. We're not going to import, by the way, we are going to receive from our parameter, our constructor, required this dot title, and then the title will have some styling. So we can have a const text style of color, and the color we are going to add manually, which is 0xFF70757A. Then we can format this document, take this footer text from here and put it down here. So we can have footer text, title will be about, let's say, and it has to be a string, so it can be about. Then we can have a sized box of width 10. Then we need to copy this and put it 3 more times, so that we can have 3 more options, and it will say advertising, then business, and then how search works. We can save this and import web footer over here in our web screen layout file. Then let's refresh and see how our app is looking. So you can see it looks pretty cool. This is clickable over here because this is a text button, and this looks pretty good. Now we have one row over here. Now the other set of options we need to show over here, and that's why we are going to have another row. So in our footer, in our web footer, we can copy this actually and put it below our row, and then the footer text will say, let's say title will be privacy, terms and settings. We can remove this from here because we have only 3 options, and let's see how our app is looking. Now you can see that all of these are stuck together. Now, as I was explaining, we need to space between them, and that's why we have our parent column. Else we could have added both of these rows in a single row, right? Now if we go in our parent row and put in main axis alignment of main axis alignment dot space between and save, you can see that this shifted to the right and we added some space over here. And as and when we reduce the size, you can see that it's getting responsive. And when we are about to touch, we will show the hello from mobile, and that is why we have called this a web footer and not just footer. Now that our web footer is done, our Google is well completed, and if I go on google.co.in, you can see that this is showing up, and well, it looks pretty similar to this. We are not adding this extra footer over here. You can add that on your own. But yeah, this looks pretty cool, and well, it's very similar. Now the next thing we need to work on is the responsive layout. So whenever we go to the mobile screen layout, we need to show a mobile responsive layout. So let's do that. So for the mobile screen layout, what we can do is copy this web screen layouts build function basically and return that. So in our mobile screen, what we can do is replace this with this. Now we will have certain changes, and that's why we had created, a new widget over here. But most of the things are going to remain the same. We just have to make certain changes, which I'll explain to you. And now I'm just importing all of the files that we haven't imported. So let's import that. Let's import the search buttons. Let's import the translation buttons as well. And then lastly, the web footer. Now this web footer will be changed because this is for the web. We are going to make something similar but not the same thing for web footer. Now let's run our app, and you can see that we are already getting an error over here, and it is in the footer. Now before changing that, what we need to add extra in our mobile screen layout is, well, over here we need to add tabs over here which will say all. Let me type A over here, and then an images over here, and we have to remove this part from here. We don't want this and even this, and instead of having this, we can have a menu icon over here. So to fix that, first we'll fix that, and then we'll go to the footer over here. Also, to bring to your notice, you can see that this part over here has dropped over here. Now I can't reduce the size anymore, but you get the point that even if we decrease the size from here, these options will fall down, and that's how we wanted it. So in our all, what we can do is in our app bar, so let me remove the text of Gmail and images. We want only this much to show up, and this is all we want. We want this icon, and I am sorry that I said we don't need this. We actually need this. And over here in the all and images part, we need to add a tab, but before that we need a menu icon over here. So let's do that. So as I said before, we can have a leading property, and in the leading we can have an icon button which will say icon, and the icon will be const icon of icons dot menu, and then the color can be colors dot gray. Now we can format this document, and we have to add one more parenthesis because we missed that. And in the icon button, we need to have an onPressed function, and we can save this much. Now if we go back, we should see our icon over here. Now let me erase all of this. You get the point of how we need that, and you can see that our icon button is showing up. The next thing we want is a tab. So in the title part, which will be somewhere over here, what we can do is have a title, and this title, you can see after hovering that it accepts a widget. So in the title, we can have a const default tab controller, and the length will be 2 because we know the length, and the child will be a constant. It will not be a constant actually, it is a tab bar, so it can't be a constant. And the tabs will be, well, a tab which is a widget provided by Flutter, and it will have a text of all. Now we can save this. Let me add some commas so that I can format this and looks cool enough. Then after adding this all text, we need to have an images text. So we can have images, and we can save this much. Now if we go over here, you can see all and images, but they are taking too much of a size. So let me restrict their size. So what I can do is wrap this default tab controller with a sized box. and the size box will have a width of size.width. Make sure to have this over here. We had taken this from the web screen layout, and then the size will be size.width into 0.3, let's say 9. And if we go over here, it's looking too much still. So what we can do is 0.34, and now it looks cool enough. Now the only problem over here is, well, now the label color, this part over here, and the label color, which is this part. So to change the label color, what we can do is label. In our tab bar, we can have label color, and the label color will be the blue color, which is this color over here. And then we can save this. Now you can see the label color has turned blue, but what we want is unselected label color to be colors.gray. So if it's not the selected tab bar, we want it to show up gray. So we can save this, and again we can see this happening. Now the indicator color, which is the color of the indicator, the blue line over here, we want that blue as well. So we can do blue color. And now if we save this, we should see the change, and now it's looking pretty cool. And if we change this, you can see that this effect of color changing is happening. Having that, our app bar is done. Now if we resize it, you can see that it works perfectly fine. Now the next thing we want to work is the footer. So what we can do is replace this with a mobile footer. And in the widgets tab, we can create another folder called mobile, and we can have mobile underscore footer dot, and it will be stateless. We will import the material package, and it will be a stateless widget called mobile footer. In the mobile footer, what we can do is return the wrap widget, and in the children we can have const, and we can have footer text of the same thing, about, and all of that. So what we can do is go to our web footer, which is this over here, and we can copy all of these from here. So these will be the ending parts, and these will be the starting parts. And after having that, we can save this much, and let's format the document. So we just imported all of the footer text, static text that we have, and we put it over here, and we're going to return a wrap widget as we have seen before. So if the size decreases, it will fall down. And in the mobile footer, what we can return is, well, import this and return mobile footer. Let's restart and see how our app is looking. Now you can see that it falls and it looks pretty cool. And this is the color that is in the web place, and it's not black, so we haven't given the color of black, and well, this is how it looks. The last part we want to change is the search bar. This is looking a big mess, so we can change this. And what we can do is, in our mobile screen, we can go to the search part. In our search widget, you can see that the size.width of this field is 0.4, and this is showing up in the mobile screen as well. So instead of creating this whole widget again just to change this part, which is the width part, what we can do is, well, make use of an alternative approach instead of the layout builder, which is done well basically when we have to make big changes. Like for this app bar, we had to change the whole app bar basically. So we used the responsive layout widget, which is a layout builder, this one, right? But for this, we just have to make a change in this width. So what I like to do is, well, use an alternative approach over here. So the width can be size.width, and if it's greater than 768, which is the value that we had given, and if it's greater than 768, what you can do is have size.width into 0.4, which means it is in the web layout, or you can have size.width into 0.9. And if we save this much, we can see that this has extended, but if we increase the size, you can see that this has shrinked again. Pretty cool. So now our responsive layout is working, and our main screen UI is done. The next thing we need to work on is on the UI of our search results. let's do that. So for the search screen, we'll need to create another widget. So let's create that in our folder, and we'll have to create a new folder called screens, because the search screen is going to look similar in both web and mobile. And as we've discussed earlier, that both of our screens should look similar, so we can just use media query. If not, and if we have to make extra configuration, then we have to make use of the layout builder. So let's do that. So here I'm going to call search screen dot, and after that we are going to import the material dot package. After that we can call a stateless widget, and you make search screen. Now in that search screen, first of all, let's make it a scaffold, and after that scaffold, first off, let's take the search screen and put it in main.dart file instead of the responsive layout, so that we can see how our search screen is looking. First we'll just work on the search screen layout, and then we will work on the results component. So yeah, this is how our search screen is looking, exactly the way we wanted it, because it's just an empty scaffold. Now what we need to do is, over here, how we want our app to look like is, we'll have a Google icon over here. After that we will have a search bar. Over here we'll have our search icon, then our mic icon, and below that we will need a list of tabs using which we can have all maps, images, news, all of that stuff. Then what we need is, after that we will have to display the amount of time it took for us to load the data. And after that we will have result component. So we'll have a result component, let's say, and these will be 10 results. And after that we need pagination, so we can have next, we will have previous and then next. With this, our layout is completed. So let's try to figure out by building this part over here. So over here we need a Google icon and a search bar. So let's work on that. So in the scaffold, what we can have in the body is single child scroll view, so that if we get that overbound error, we can just make it scrollable. Then in the child, we can see that we need a column over here, so we can have column, and in the column we want it to start from the right, start in both the places, so we can have main axis alignment dot start and cross axis alignment as cross axis alignment dot start. Having that, we need children, so the children will be first the web header, then we need to have the tabs for news, images, etc. Then we will have our search results component, wherein the time taken to fetch the results will also be there. And the last thing we need is the pagination buttons, so let's call them that. And this is all the 4 components that we need. So first let's work on the web header. So we'll have const web search header. Actually, since it's going to be the same thing, so we can just call it search header. And let's take this from here and create a widget. We'll call that search underscore header dot. Then we'll import the material package, and then we'll create a stateless widget. We'll call this search header, and then we will take in the final size, which is equal to media query of context dot size dot, let's say size. And after that we'll have to return some padding from the top, so let's say padding of const edge insets dot only, and from the top we'll have 25, because we don't want this component to stick right to the top. We just want some bit of padding, so let's do that. And after that we can have a child, which will be a row, because we want a Google logo and the text input field. Then in the row we'll have children, and the children will be padding the padding will be const edge insets dot only, and from the left 28, right 15, and top 4. With this we have made this a bit away from this and from this and from the top as well. And after that we will need a child, and the child will be our logo, so we can call image.asset assets slash images slash google dash logo dot png, and the height will be 30 and width will be 92. Cool, let's format the document. And after that, after padding, we will need a sized box. So let's say constant sized box of width 27. And after that, we will need our text form field. So let's create that. So, and as we know, the text form field extends to all the width that it gets. So what we can do is have a container. So we can have container, and the width will be size dot width into 0.45, so that it takes, only the 50%, almost 50%, not even 50%, almost 50% of whatever space is there, like whatever the screen width is. Cool. Having that, we can have decoration of box decoration. So the color will be search color, then the border radius will be border radius dot circular 22. Let's see why we're getting this error. So it's a border, and yet again we have made this mistake. So it's a border and we've given border radius we had to give. And after that we will need a border lastly, and the border will be border dot all, and the color will be search color. Then the container will also have some height, so let's put the height as 44. You can again use media query, for sure it will work. Then the child will be text form field, and then we will have style of constant text style, and here we can decide the cursor size and all of that stuff. So in the text form field, whatever input we give it, we want it to show up. So the font size will be 16. And before that, let's try to see what input how our app is looking after the web search header. So let's try to run our app and see. So you can see over here that we're getting this text input field, and we're getting this error over here, like this line over here. Let's try to remove that and let's work more on it. So after this style, we will have a text align vertical as text align vertical dot center. After that, we'll have a decoration, which will be an input decoration, and in this input decoration we can have our suffix icons. Both of them will be here, so suffix icon will be a row. So we can have suffix icon, and the suffix icon accepts a widget, so we can put in a row. And the main axis alignment will be main axis alignment dot end, and the main axis size will be main axis size dot minimum. Then in the children, we can have the icons. So our icons are going to be the mic icon and the search icon. And as we know that the mic icon will be an SVG, so we can do SVG picture. So let's try to import the correct file, SVG picture dot asset, and let's go on the top and import Flutter SVG. Then the SVG picture dot asset will have assets slash images slash mic icon dot SVG, and the height will be 20 and the width will be 20. After that, we will have another sized box of width 20, and then we can have our search icon. So we can have constant icon icons dot search, and the color will be a blue color. So you can have that translation buttons color. So this is our blue color. Looks good. Now let's save it and see how it's looking. So this looks good, but we still haven't gotten rid of this. So let's try to get rid of this underline. So what we can do is, so after our suffix icon, we can have focus border. And the focus border will be input border dot none. And then enabled border will be input border dot none. And now if we save this, we should be getting rid of this. And now even if we go over it, we can see that we are not getting that. So that's cool. Over here in our row, what we can do is first of all add a container with constraints, and the constraints will be a constant box constraints, and we can have max width of 150. Now if we go over here, you cannot see much difference, but it has made a difference. So if we shrink the size, you can see that it's looking much better. Now if we go in after the and we have to wrap the container with a padding, because you can see that our cursor over here is starting right from here and we don't want that. So we can have a padding, and the padding will be edge insets dot symmetric, and from the horizontal we want 15. And if we save this much, we should see that this is looking pretty good. Our search icon has shifted a bit over here. So the next thing we want to do now is have that tabs icon, all of the tabs that we have. So let's try to make that. So let's write here constant search tabs, and we'll create that widget. So in our widgets folder, we can have another file called search underscore tabs dot dart. Now we can import the material package, and we have to create a stateless widget. So we can call this, I think we created a stateful widget. Let's try to create a stateless widget called search tabs, and we'll have to return a container, but we just want the height, so we can just use sized box, and the height will be of 55, and the child will be a row because we want all of the icons to be in the horizontal direction. Now the cross-axis alignment will be cross-axis alignment dot end, and then we can have children with a constant value, and then we have to add a search tab. Now we haven't created the search tab, we'll have to create that, because we are creating the search tab widget in a while, but I'm explaining why I'm making the search tab widget. This is because, well, all of our buttons like all images, maps, news, shopping, all of those icons and all of those text, they are the same looking. So they have the same UI. So instead of making configuration in each and every search tab, if you want to make some changes in the future, we have to just create a change in the search tab. So that I feel is a better thing. So we can have search underscore tab dot dart. Now this search tab, we'll have to import the material package, and it will be a stateless widget, and this will be called search tab. Now this search tab will return a column, and in that column we'll have main axis alignment as main axis alignment dot end, and cross axis alignment as cross axis alignment dot center. After that we'll have children, and the children will be row. Now this children of row will have main axis alignment as main axis alignment dot center, and cross axis alignment of cross axis alignment dot center. So basically we are creating a column, and inside of that we need a row, and then we have to put in the children. Now the children will be first of all the icon, and we have to accept that icon from the parameter from the constructor, and then we can call final icon data icon. Make sure to add icon data, not icon, because, well, we are using icon over here, so it requires an icon data, so we can pass an icon. Then the size will be 18, and we again need to have another variable called final bool is active. Now with this is active variable, what we can check if we can keep track of what icon is being selected. So if the is active is turned to false, then we know that what search tab is selected, and then if you want to make the changes, then you can display the appropriate page on the screen. Suppose you want to show images, so if you click on that, this .isActive will change the color and all of the color scheme in our search tab class over here. Now I won't require this .isActive, because if we don't suppose we don't want to mention isActive, we can just give it an initial value of false. So if the user doesn't tell us that isActive is equal to true, so that the user doesn't have to explicitly mention that this is not active, so instead of doing that, we can just have a false value over here. Now the icon will have a color, and the color will be isActive. And now since it can be null, so we have to make sure that it's not null, and then we can check. So if isActive is not there, so the blue color, so there is blue color, or there is colors dot gray. Cool, let's remove that now. And after that, we will have a constant sized box, and the width can be 3. Then we need a text with text. So let's get that from the constructor as well. And this will be required, this dot text. Now definitely you could have named it title, but let's go with the text variable. And then the style is text style of font size 15. And then the color will be isActive. And we'll check if it's active, then again we have to give it the blue color, or we have to pass in the colors dot gray. Now we can again format this document, and after that is done, after the row in the column, what we can have is another sized box of height this time, and it will be 7. And then we'll have a container that says, well, a container height 3, width 40, color blue color. Right, now we need to display this because, well, this is this part over here, like the indicator color, so to say, if we are using tabs. So that is the indicator color below this tabs, that whatever tab we have. Right, now let's try to import the search tab over here. Let's import that, and we will have search tab. First of all, isActive will be true for the first one. Then there will be text of all, and then the icon will be icons dot search. Now after that, we will have a sized box of width 20, and then we can again take this and paste it more times. So we can just paste it one more time, then one more, one more, one more, and one more. So in this text, we will need images, and we'll have icons dot images, image. Then over here we'll have map. Then we can have map. Then we'll have news, and we can have new. So there is no news icon, so we can just take an article. Then we want shopping. So let's try to have shopping, and the icon for shopping will be shop. And lastly, we need a more icon. So over here we can have more, and our more icon is going to be the 3 vertical dots. So we can have icons underscore dot more underscore vertical. Now let's try to import the search tabs. So we can have that. Let's save it and refresh. So let's see how it's looking. Now it's looking good, but the only problem is the padding over here and all of them being well selected. So what we can do instead is first remove isActive or from all of them. So what we can do is take control, press option on Mac, and then we can select all of this and remove them. Now there is only one active, so we can remove this. Let's try to refresh. News is still active, so we can remove that as well. Now let's see. We are getting this indicator color still because we have not conditionally rendered over here. So what we can check over here is if is active. So if the tab is active, we have to show this, else we have to show nothing. So we can have container. Now you can't put null over here because it is a widget tree, so you can't pass in null values over here. Now let's go back and you can see that it's looking pretty good. The only problem here now, as I described previously, is the padding. So in our search screen, what we can do is, in our search screen over here, we can wrap this with the padding, and the padding will be const edge insets dot only, and from the left side we will have 150. Let's say that. Let's remove const from here and const from here and put const padding. Now let's see how our app is looking. Now it's looking much better, which is pretty good. Now we need a divider over here so that we can divide between the results that we get and all of the header section. So let's have a divider. So over here put a comma and then const divider, and then the height can be 0 and the thickness can be, let's say, 1. Let's save it, and you can see this divider going up, which is pretty good. The next thing we want is, let's decrease the thickness so we can have 0.3, and you can see this looks much better. Now having that, we need to work on the search results. So for the search results, what we want is to fetch results from an API. So we'll do that part later. So we can come to the pagination button, and over here we can type sized box. I want it to take all the available width, so we can do width as double.infinity, and then we can have a child of row, and then the main axis alignment as main axis alignment dot center. Then the cross axis alignment as cross axis alignment dot center. Then we need children, and the children will be text button. Now the text button will have an on pressed of nothing for now, but we'll change that. And the child will have a constant text of previous. Now let's add some styling to our text. So we can have style as text style, font size as 15, and the color as blue color. Let's format the document, and this looks good. Now we can copy this text button and we can paste it again, but this time we'll have next, and it will be like this. Let's save it and let's see what we are getting. So this looks good. Now I want a bit of difference between all of this, so we can have a constant sized box of width 30. We can have that. Looks pretty good. Now we can have another sized box over here, which will be of the height 30, and then we can have our footer. So we can have search footer, which we'll create now. Now this for search footer will be in the widgets, so we can create that search underscore footer dot dot. Now let's again import the material package, and let's create a stateless widget of search footer. Then over here we can again have our final size equal to media query dot of context dot size, and we can return our container. So instead of returning a container, we can have a column, and it will have children, and the children will have a container. First of all, a color of footer color, so that gives a black like effect. Then we can have padding, and the padding will be edge insets. I want to edit this, so let's say padding edge insets dot symmetric, and from the horizontal direction we can have 150, and from the vertical 15. Now let's have child, and the child will be a row. Then the row will have children, and in the children all we want is a text that says India, because I'm from that country. and the style will be text style of color as colors. Let's colors dot gray 700, and then finally a font size of 15. Now having that, let's see how our app is looking. So we can import the search footer again, and let's refresh. Let's see how it's looking. So now if we see the output, we have our previous and next buttons over here, but beside that we have that. We don't want that. We want that in the column. So the problem we have done over here is we have to remove this from here and put it outside of the container over here. And now if we format the document, we should see our footer over here, which is pretty good. Now we can again go to our search footer. Then after the text, we can have a sized box of width 10. So we can have constant sized box of width 10. Then we have a container of height 20 with 0.5, and then a color of colors.gray. Then we can have a sized box of width 10. We can do size box with 10. Now we can have a constant icon that says icons.circle, and we'll have a color which we'll pass in as color, and this will be a value source 0xFF70757A. Now let's make the size as 12. Now let's format this and let's see what we are getting. So we have this icon over here which is pretty cool. Now we have to add in the pin code. So we can have constant sized box of width 19. I think 19 will be too much, so let's put in 10. And then we can have our text. So we can have constant text, and I'm going to put in a random pin code, and it will be Mumbai, Maharashtra. All this place is random. Now after that we will have a style of text style. Let's say the font size is 14, and then we have a color as primary color, and let's format the document. Now let's see how it's looking. This looks very good. The next thing we want to do is again add a divider. So we can have constant divider. We have to get out of this container as well. So now the constant divider, and the divider will be of the thickness of 0, height 0, and color will be colors.black 26. Now you can save this and let's see how it's looking. Now we will remove the comma from here, and after the divider what we need to show is a container which is again of the color footer color, and we'll have a padding of const edge insets dot symmetric, and from the horizontal direction we will have 50. Then the child will be a row, and the row will be children, which will be called text, and it will be help. Now there will be some styling, so the styling will be text style of color as colors.gray, and the font size as 15. Now the colors.gray will be having a shade of colors.gray at 700. So let's have that. Let's put another parenthesis which we missed. Now the text help is there. Now we can have a constant sized box of width 20, and we'll again have our text, so we can copy this much and paste it again. This will be called send feedback. Then we can again paste, and we will have privacy, and again we'll call this terms, and let's save it. So after this you can see that our app is coming into shape. So now I know this looks a bit pathetic. So after we add the search results, all of this will make sense. So let's do that. But before fetching the search results, what we want to do is go get an API key. So you can either go over here or you can go over here. I'll mention both of these links in the description and click on get a key over here. When I did that, I get that dialog option and I can select a project. I'm going to call it Google Clone Tutorial and I'll click on next. And if you see this error, you can go on this link. I'll mention this in the description as well. And you can click on enable APIs and services. I'm going to change my project. I'm going to create a new project, by the way, and I'm going to call it Google Clone Tutorial, and I'm going to press create. So this will create a project for us. We can select that project. Then we are in the Google Clone Tutorial project. Now we can select our custom search API, and we have this custom search API, and we can click on enable. So after that is done, we can go and click on the menu bar, and where we'll have APIs and services, we can go in the credentials, and well, we have to create a credential, so we can create an API key. This will create an API key, and I've edited this part because I don't want to show the API key. Make sure to not show it to anyone at all. So we go back to our VS Code, and in the lib folder we can create config folder, and this config folder will have an API underscore keys part dot, and here we can pass in the API key. So we can have API key which will be equal to your API key that you got from the Google console. If you have any errors while getting it from the Google console, please make sure to DM me on Instagram, or well, you can just comment down below. Now I'm going to put in my API key, which I'll edit it out. So you have to go on this website. I'll mention this in the description as well. Now you have to enter a search engine name, so you can do any, I guess. Let's put in the search engine name as Google Clone Tutorial. You can just pass in anything. These dash over here, these hyphens are not needed. And over here we can enter a site name, so we can do, and instead of searching for specific sites or pages, you can search the entire web. And we don't want image search or safe search, anything like that, so we can click on I'm not a robot and press on create. Now this is the context key that we have. Even if it's seen to anyone, it doesn't matter. So you can click over here and copy, and then in our API keys we can have constant string context key, similar to what we had in API key, and we can pass that. I've edited this out because my API key is still lying over there. Now after that is done, all our configurations have been made. So for the search results, what we can do is have a future builder, and the future builder, I took the snippet, and for the future we can have fetch data. So we can call this fetch data, which we'll fetch. Now we don't want any initial data, so we can remove that. And for the builder, we are going to return, first of all, we'll have to make some checks. So if the snapshot that we have has any data, then what we need to do is return something. So what we can return is a column which will have a main axis alignment from the main axis alignment dot start, then a cross axis alignment of cross axis alignment dot start. Then we need to pass in children, and the children will have container, and the container will have padding, and it will be of edge insets dot only, and from the left it will be 150, and from the top it will be 12, so that it doesn't stick with the top part. Now the child over here is going to be the text, and what is the text going to be? About, right? Now how much time it took, so we need to display that. So we can do about, and we need to pass in the data from here. Now to fetch the data, what we are going to do is, in the lib folder we are going to create a services folder, and in that services folder we are going to have a API underscore service dot file. Now we're going to create a class called API service. the thing I want to note right now is that the API that we're using, Google Custom Search API, has only a maximum of 100 results that we can get in a day. So to avoid the issue of running into the error of not having proper an amount of results, what we can do is have something called is dummy data, and we are going to have dummy data for right now, so that while we are debugging, we can have dummy data shown up. And while we are in the production mode, we can just change it to dummy data equal to true. So while testing, our app will run on the dummy data and we will not run out of the requests. So we can have future map of string comma dynamic, and we'll call it fetch data. It is going to be an asynchronous process, and since it's an asynchronous process, we need a try catch block. If there is any error, what we can do is print e.message. Instead, let's put in e.toString. And in the try block, what we can check is if it's not dummy data, what you can do is get a query. So the query can be string q, and we'll need a query from here as well. So we can have required string query term, and we are using named constructors over here. So string q will be equal to the query term, and we'll have to check if the query term contains a blank space, then we need to do query term dot split. So we'll split this, and then we'll join it by %20, and then if it does not contain anything, we have to pass in the query term only. So what I've done over here, I'm going to explain it with an example. So suppose I have a name called Rivaan Ranawat, let's say. Now we have this query that the user has passed in. So if this query term will contain the space, so we have a space over here, and since it contains, it will run the first condition. So what we'll do is query term dot split by so whenever the query term gets this space, it will split it into an array of 2. So there will be one array of Rivaan and then another array of Ranawat. Then it will join both of these arrays with %20. So since we have this array, it will join together by %20. So this becomes our query at the last. And this is what Google will understand. Or you can even do join by plus, and even that Google will understand. We'll put %20. And now we need to fetch the API. So for that, we are going to use a package known as HTTP. Link will be mentioned in the description. You can also use DO. That will work as well. Now the response will be final response equal to await HTTP, and we have to get the HTTP package. So we can do import http.dart as HTTP. We can do http.get, and what we need to get is what we are going to do now, URI.parse, since it accepts an URI, and we can do URI.parse and pass in the URL over here, and the URL is going to be https://www.googleapis.com/custom-search/v1 ? And we'll have to pass in the key. And what is our key going to be? That we'll have to import from our API keys. So we can do API key, and we have that. Then we have our context. So we have to do and cx, which will be equal to $context key. Then our query term. So we can do and q equal to $q, because that's what we did right now, q. So we have to pass in this, and then finally we have to pass in the start value. So where our values from should start from. So we can have start equal to, and we'll fetch this from the start. So we can have string start equal to 0. So we can take the start and pass in $start. Now let's format the document, and you can see we basically sent a get request, and we are going to pass this URI, and we can pass the we can convert this string to our URI by doing URI.pass. Now we have the response, so we'll check if the response went well. So to check if the response went well and gave us no errors, we can check if response.status code is equal to 200. So if the response went well, so that means everything is okay, then we can do final JSON data equal to response.body. This will get us the content of our response, and then we can have final response data equal to JSON.decode. And to get the JSON, what we can do is import dot convert, and then we can do JSON.decode, and we have to decode the JSON data. And then we can finally return this response data, which will be a map of string and dynamic. Cool. Let's put the comma over here. And now if it is not dummy data, and suppose if this doesn't go well, status code is not 200, and suppose the status code is not 200, then that means we have probably run into some issue with our URI, or our API requests have gotten over. So what we can do is, after this, catch, return something known as an API response, which we'll create in another file. So in our config, we can have API_JSON ... And to get the API JSON, what you can do is go on this link and you can copy this. I'll mention this in the description below. So basically this data over here is the dummy data that we need. So we can copy this. We can paste this over here. This is nothing but the dummy data that we have from the Google Search API. So with this, we have our dummy data. So if nothing went well, you can just pass in the API response. Right, now we can even fetch the data. So in our future, we can do API service, which is our class, and we can fetch the data. Now the query term, for now we can just pass anything. So our query term can be, let's say, Rivan, because well, our boolean over here is false that we did. Also, let me close all the saved files. And over here in the query term, let's keep it Rivan for now. Anyways, we are going to get the boolean data. We are going to get the dummy data, and we have to pass in the start. For now, our start is also going to be 0. So let's put that. Now we can do about, and we can have, if we go back to our API JSON over here, we can see that to get the about how much time it take, we have to do about search information. Then we'll have search time over here. So, and this is also the total number of results that we got. So we want search time and formatted total results in the search information property. So over here we can just do about $snapshot.data, and we can have search information, then we can have formatted total results. So we got almost these many results, and then we need to pass in the amount of time it took. So what we can do is, actually let's just copy this much and paste it again, and over here instead of having formatted total results, that is this, instead of this we want search time, and actually this search time is 0.64, which is not formatted. So we can take formatted search time and paste that over here. And after that, it will give us the seconds, because you can see it's 0.64. So it might be seconds. So we can do seconds. And we can format the document. I'll put a comma as well. Right. So we have about these many results that were loaded in this much time. So we want this in the parentheses. So we can cover this in the parentheses as well. Cool. This is how we fetch the data from a map basically. So about these many results in these many seconds. So let's save this much, and now we need to return if there is nothing for the data. So we can have return constant center child circular progress indicator. And we can format this document, and now let's see what we are getting. You can see about 78,100 results. That is a bit different. That is probably because we have set our API service to false. Let me set it to true. We have to set the dummy data to true. Make sure to do that so that we use the dummy data, and now we should be getting this. We have already wasted 10 results of our API, so make sure to not do that before moving forward. Now in our container, after this is returned, what we need to return is, well, let's have some styling because this is looking very weird. So we can have a styling for our text. So we can have style constant text style, and the text style is going to be of the font size 15 and a color of color 0xFF70757A. Now we can put the comma, format the document, and let's see. This looks much better. We have turned this in a bit of grayish color so that, you know, our focus is not entirely on this and on the search results that show up. Now after this container, we need to show a list view builder, which will show us the results. So our item builder will be there. So our item builder will return a context and an index, and we have to return a padding, and the padding will have edge insets dot only, and from the left it will be 150, and from the top 10. Then we'll have a child, and the child will be called search result component, and we'll have to build that search results component. So let's do that. So we can save this much and create a widget called search underscore result underscore component dot. Then we can import the material package, and then we can have a stateless widget of search result component. In the search result component, we'll have to return a column because our search result component is going to look something like, you know, let's try to draw it out. So let's draw it out. So let me remove all of these first. So I have my pencil over here. Now what we're going to draw is, we will have our, suppose this is our search result. This is one search result that we have. So what we want to show is, well, first of all, the link, then the header part, which will be the title of this, you know, website. Then we can have the description of the metadata of the website. And this is all that a search component is going to look like. So let's try to figure that out. So in the column, what we can do is return a column, and we'll have a main axis alignment of main axis alignment dot start, and a cross axis alignment of cross axis alignment dot start. We'll have children, and the children first of all will be a link. So let's get that link. So final string link, and we'll have to require this from the constructor. And then after that is done, I don't want to do any styling for the link. So after that, we will have a padding, and we'll have a padding of const edge insets dot only, and from the bottom we want 8. We can remove the C from here. Now we can have a child. So in our child, what we want to do is, we'll have an inkwell, and the inkwell will have a splash color of colors dot transparent, then a highlight color of colors dot transparent, then the hover color of colors dot transparent, and an on tap function which will be accepting from the search result component. So we'll have final function on tap, and this function we'll have to call and not just store the address of this function. So we can do on tap, and this on tap can be null. and we have to accept this from the parameter from the constructor. So we can do this dot on tap, and the on tap will be on tap. Now after that is done, what we need to do is on hover, what we need to show is hovering. We'll get the value of hovering. So we need to, so if there is a hover, what we need to do is, well, you know, whenever there is a hover in our application, we need to make sure that if this is a title, we hover over it, we want it to be underlined. So let me show you how we can do this. So first of all, we'll need to convert the stateless widget to a stateful widget. This is the first stateful widget in our app. And we'll have boolean underscore show underline. We want it to be private, so we can do false. Now we can take the show underline, and over here we can set the state of show underline equal to hovering. Now in our child we can have a column, and in the column we'll have children, and the column will start right from the top. So we can have mean axis alignment dot start and a cross axis alignment of cross axis alignment dot start. Now the children will be text link that we've got. Now we'll have to make this widget dot link now, and the style will be a constant text style, and the font size will be 14, and the color will be color, and we'll have to pass in 0xff202124. After that is done, let me format the document. Having that, we need another text which we can just copy this much. Let me copy this, and we can paste this much, and the widget will be widget dot text. Now we'll have to have this text as well, so we can have final string text, and this will be this dot text. Now this text has to be required, so we can do required this dot text, and the style over here we can replace with font size equal to, we'll have to remove the font size, and the color we are going to get is blue color. So now in the decoration, what we can have is, first we will check that if show underline is equal to true, what we need to do is text decoration dot underline, else the text decoration can be none. Now let's see, this is not a constant value, so we can remove this. Now this is done, so we can even this to true. Now the color over here can be blue color, and we did that. So after that is done, we need to check what error we are getting. So we need to pass in the properties over here, which we'll do in a while, but this much is done. So for the search result component, what we can do is remove this on tap from here. We don't want that on tap, and instead in the on tap we can have on tap, and when there is an on tap, what we need to do is first of all make this function asynchronous, and we can check if await. And now over here we'll have to add a package named as URL underscore launcher, so that we can launch the URL that we get. So in our API service, if you go, you can not in the API service, you'll have to go in the API underscore JSON.dart. You can see that we will get a link below. So here you can have formatted URL, and we want that. You can see the link over here, the formatting URL. We want this URL, and if we click on the header, somewhere on the header, we need to launch the URL. So what we can do is if await can launch, and you can see that we have that function. So we can do if await can launch, and we have to pass in the URL. So we can type in link to go, and we can accept that final string link to go, and we can make this required this dot link to go. So if await link dot to go, and let's see why we're getting this error. We have to do widget dot link to go, because this is a stateful widget. We can do await launch link to, again we'll have to do if widget dot link to go. the link that we have to go to and the link that will show up are both different. So make sure to have another link to go over here. Right, now after having that, what we can do is get out of this padding widget. And after the padding, we need to show the description. So we can have text description, and we have to access that from the user as well. So final text string description, and we can have required this dot description over here. Now we can have description, and the style is going to be a text style, which will be a constant. We'll change that, and the font size will be 14 and the color will be white. So we can have primary color. We can put a const over here, and the description will be widget.description. Now if I save this much, where is my format document? And then in the search result component, we need to pass in something. So we can go and press command and full stop and add the required arguments. So the first thing we need to add is a description. So our description, if we go in our API JSON file, we can find the description by finding, snippet, and you can see that the snippet is there. This is the description of our app. So we can find this. So this snippet lies in the items count over here, and this is the 0th index. But what if we click on the 2nd index? So we need to make sure that that happens. So this is in the items, and then we'll have to pass in the index because this is an array. So if we want to get the first result, we can do index at 0, then index at 1. So we have to pass an index, and then we can get a snippet. So let's go to our search screen, and over here we can do snapshot.data, which can be null, as items index, which we'll get from our list view builder, and then link. Now we also need to pass in the item count for our list view builder, so we can do that, and it will be, again, snapshot.data items, and we can then do dot length. In the index, instead of link, we need to do snippet. Now we can copy this much and paste it for each and every line. So the next thing we want to do is link. So we can do this and pass in link. Then we want to have link to go, but link to go is going to be actually the link, and link over here is going to be formatted URL. That's my bad, because if you go in the API JSON file, and you can find that the snippet is the description, then we have link, which is the link that we have to go to, then the formatted URL, which is the link that we need to show. Now both of these are the same in this demo data, but they might differ in an actual user input. Now this is the link to go, and link we have. Then we need to pass in the text, and the text is going to be snapshot. Let me just paste this much, and the text is going to be the title. Now we can see that our error have gone. So yeah, this is pretty much it. Let's try to, close our app because we added the URL launcher dependency, and run without debugging. So we have got our Chrome running, and now you can see that we are not seeing anything. Let's see what error we are getting. Now render box has not been laid out, and we are using a list builder. So this is probably because we need to set shrink wrap to true. Now if we do that and restart our application, we can see that we are getting the results, and they look pretty good. The only problem here is, the title is pretty small, so we can change that. So in our search result component, for the widget.text, what we can do is set a font size of 20, and let's save it. We see that this is looking much better. What we can do now is add a font weight, and the font weight can be font weight.w400. And yeah, I don't think there's a difference, so let's just remove that. And now if we go hover over it, you can see that all of this stuff is looking neat. We are getting the underline effect that we wanted. The problem here is, there is not much spacing after one search result. So what we can do is, in our search screen, after returning a padding in our search result component, after the widget.description, we can have a size box of height, let's say 10, and we will make that a constant. So let me format the document. And if we go over here, this looks much cleaner, right? So after that is done, let's check if our URL launcher is working. Now I click on Vimeo and you can see vimeo.com opening. So that means it's working. And now to check if all of the links are opening different stuff, we can click over here and you can see Google Maps opening, which is a pretty cool thing. Now the next thing we need to work on is, well, getting both of these buttons to work. So what we can do is go over here, and in the previous, what we can do is, so for the pagination, for the previous button, we don't want the previous button to be activated when the search results are starting from 0. That means we are getting the first 10 results because there will be no previous then. And we want it to be deactivated when the start is equal to 0. But how can we get the start value, right? So what we can do is accept the final string search query from the user. What we can do is final string search query and a final string start. Now both of these we are going to accept from the user. So we can have required this dot start and required this dot search query. We can format the document and we can take this search query, and over here in the query term we have passed in namaanrivaan, and instead of that what we can do is pass search query. And the other thing we need to do is pass in the start, and the start will be the start that we have declared in the constructor. So we can do that, and we can have the padding a constant and then another padding a constant. Having that done, in the previous, what we can do is check if the start is not equal to 0. What we need to do is navigator dot of context dot push, and we can have a material page route, and the builder will be a context, and it will return a search screen yet again. So we need to return this stateless widget itself with the search screen as with the start as. So we're going to return this. So we're going to return this screen itself. So the material page route, and we're going to return the search screen with different results. To show different results, what we can do is change the value of start over here. Now the search query is going to remain the same because we want the values of the same thing showing up, but the start value over here will change. Now how can we change the start values? So over here we can convert our start variable first to int. So int.parse start, and then we can subtract 10 and then again convert it to string. So what we've done basically over here is to get the previous 10 results. So this previous button right here, this previous button will basically get us the previous 10 results. So to get the previous 10 results, we have to just subtract it from the 10. So we are doing just that. And since the start is a string, and we have the start as string from the constructor as well, so what we are doing is converting this start to an int and subtracted 10 from it, and then converting it back to string again. Now, if the start is equal to 0, we don't want it to do anything. That means the button is deactivated. So yeah, we can do that. Now we can copy this and go to the next variable. And over here, what we can do is navigator.push, and instead of -10, we need to do +10 because it's the next 10 results that we want. Now in the main.dart file, instead of having the search screen for testing, what we can do is remove all of this, have our home again, and now to show the search result component, what we can do is go to our mobile screen layout, and in the search box, the search widget that we had created, over here we will have a property of text form field which will be on field submitted. Now this on field submitted will give us the query, so we can just type query, and we can do navigator.ofContext, which is in our clipboard. So we can pass in the search screen, and the start is going to be nothing for now. So we can just do this as start 0, and the search query is going to be the query that we have. Now we can do that much and we can save. Now this will happen both in the mobile screen layout and the web screen layout, because you can see that we are using this widget right here. This is called reusability of the components, which is very beneficial. You can see right now. Now you can format the document, save it, and well, let's try to figure it out. Now you can see the screen over here. Now if I type anything, that won't matter because we are using dummy data, and now we can see our results popping up. Now if I click on next, we should see a result, another result, and now if I click on previous, nothing. We can go back to the previous result. Now again type previous, you can see nothing happening because we are on the start screen itself, right? Now you will see the same set of results happening because we are using dummy data as of now, but you can see that change. So to see that change, what we can do is in our API service, which is over here, we can set the dummy data to false, and let's try to run our app once again. So over here I can type Rivaan, and to show you that we have made some changes in our query term, I'm going to add Ranawat as well with a space, and we can click on enter, and you can see Rivaan Ranawat showing up and all of my profiles are showing up, which is a pretty cool thing. Now if I click previous, nothing happens. If I click next, we get a set of next 10 results, which is pretty cool, right? Now I can again set the dummy data to true now that I know it's working, and I can refresh it so that my API quota doesn't get exhausted. Cool. Now we can also take these both, and actually not just these both, but all of this text, button and sized box from here, and we can cut this, we can remove this and put that in the column so that you'll see the difference. So in the format document we put that because we don't want anything to show up when our results are loading. We want all of them to be hidden, and we'll just see a circular progress indicator. Else the pagination buttons and our search footer stays, and this also shows up, which looks pretty ugly. Now if we do this and type in something Rivaan, you don't see any delay because we are getting it from our demo data, but we'll try that again in a while. So our pagination is done as well. The next and the last thing we need to do is, if we click over here, we should be seeing another set of results. So we can work on that. So what we can do is go on the top, and we can see that we are using a search header. We can go in that file. I pressed command, and then I pressed the mouse button, the right mouse button, and I went in this file. And then in the text form field, we can have an on field submitted value, and we'll again get a query. And what we did for the the mobile screen layer, so the search.dart file, we can do the same thing. So we can take this navigator.of_context.push, and we can paste that. Now we need to again show the search screen, and now if we do this much, I think we are good to go. So if I do Rivaan, we go there. Now I can again try Rivaan, and we can see that we are getting another result, which is pretty cool. The last thing we would want now is, well, our design to be responsive. Now you can see if we go and type Rivaan, you can see that we are getting a lot of errors over here. We don't want that, right? So the stuff that we want to change is, let me erase all of this stuff. We have got our layout pretty well. And over here, what we need to do is, well, remove all of this margin from here, the padding from here, then the padding from here as well. And we need to elongate this, so we can have this elongation over here. And this is all we want. So let's try to remove all of that stuff. And since these are pretty small changes, we are not going to create another mobile screen layout and then pass it through the responsive layout. Instead, what we are going to do is make some media query changes right here itself. So we can go to our search tabs first. So what we can do is search_tabs.dart, and over here you can see in the search tab, in the padding over here, you can see the padding of left is 150. So what we can do is, instead of 150, we can do size.width we need to create a size variable over here. So we can do final size is equal to media query dot of context dot size dot, let's keep it size. And now if size dot width is smaller than or equal to 768, what we need to do is show a left padding of 10, otherwise a 150 padding. Now we can remove this const, it's no longer a const, and the child can be a const of search tabs. So if we are getting the mobile screen layout, we want a padding of left of 10, and if not, then we need a padding of 150 that we had over here. Let's save it and see the change. Now if I type Rivaan here yet again, you can see that this has shifted to the left, which is pretty cool. I can remove all of this. So we got this correct. The next thing we want to remove is this padding from here. So what we can do is go to the future builder, and over here we have a padding of this. So actually I'm just going to copy this from here and paste it down, because these both are similar things. And we can again remove the padding of constant, and let's save and see what we're getting. I'll again have to pass and run, and you can see that we are getting a padding of left from 10, which is looking pretty good. Now we have to change this. The about section is looking in the center, but we don't want that. We want that to be in the left as well. So we can change that. So over here in our padding, we can again put in this over here, this condition that we had copied to our clipboard, and remove that. And now let's see what we're getting. So you can see that this has come over here, which looks excellent. Now you can see some error coming over here. So over here, what we can do in the search footer is change this. So we can have size dot width. I'm just going to again paste this, and well, I think this is pretty much it. Now I can again test, can go down, and you can see that this error from here has disappeared. So yeah, this was it. Now if we click on next, we can go on the other screen, which looks pretty good, works as well. And if I do this, it works as well. All of these stuff is working. Now we need to make a small change at the end. So what we can do is, when we click over here, you can see that it's showing Google clone only, but we don't want that. We want to show what the user has searched at the top. So what we can do is go to the search screen, and we can wrap our scaffold with a widget. So we can do wrap with widget, and that will be called a title. Now this title widget will have a requirement of color, which is a requirement, I don't know why. So our color is going to be, let's say, colors.blue. This is a requirement. I'm not even sure why they have made this as a requirement. And the title will be a search query. Now we can save this. And now if we search something, let's say I'm typing Rivaan Ranawat, right? Now if I go this, you can see that this title over here has changed according to our query term. So if I type Rivaan yes, and we can save, and you can see Rivaan yes showing up. So this is working pretty well. Now with this, we have come to an end of this tutorial, but before ending, I want to show you, the full demo of this app. So we can turn the dummy data to false, and over here what we are going to type is Rivaan Ranawat, and instead of Rivaan Ranawat, what we can type is Flutter, and you can see that we are getting a circular progress indicator. And if we type Flutter, you can see Flutter at the top, and if we scroll down, we can go to the next 10 results, and if we go back, we can see the previous results. Now we can do Flutter, and we can go over here, and this opens the flutterexperience.com website for us, which is pretty cool. Now this much is done for our Chrome. Now I'll load up the iOS simulator and show you how it looks on the iOS simulator. So now our iOS simulator is loaded up, and you can see it's looking pretty good. Now the only thing over here is we need to remove these buttons from our mobile screen layout. So we can do that. We can go to the mobile screen layout and remove the translation and the search buttons from here. We'll keep the sized box, and then remove that. Now it looks much better. Now we have all of that what we want. Now we can have Rivaan. And let's click on enter, and you can see we are getting some error over here. Now that is because in the search screen our tabs is exceeding. So in case our this exceeds, what we can do is go to the search tabs and wrap this with a widget known as single child scroll view, and well, we can have a scroll direction actually, and that will be of axis dot horizontal, and we can format the document. Now if we go over here, we can see that this has become scrollable, which is a pretty good thing. Now we can make this a constant as well. I'll remove the constant of search tabs from here, and I'm going to format this document. Cool. Now we have that over here, and yeah, we can see that it's looking pretty good and it's working pretty well. This is a constant header, and if we go scroll down, this is a constant header and we can scroll past through it. But the only issue I have right now is even this is a constant over here. We want only this much to remain at the top, but we want this part to be with this. So what we can do is go to our search screen, and over here we can take this container from here, and in the list view builder, instead of returning just padding, what we can do is return a column, and then the column, and in the column first thing we'll have is this part over here. So after having that done, you can see about 5470 results showing up. So what we can do is return this column over here, and we can wrap this list view dot builder with a column, and in the list view builder we can wrap this with a container. So we can format this document, and now you can see about 5470 results showing up. Well, that's pretty good. And then what we can do is take these from here. We can take all of this button from here, and we can put that in this column right here. So we can format this document, and then if we save, you can see that it's showing up, which is pretty good. And now let me click on Rivaan Ranat over here, and my personal portfolio website should show up, which is pretty good. So yeah, we can click on done, and we'll get back over here. We can go on my GitHub profile, and if you go in the repositories tab over here, you can see the code for Google Clone Flutter, and you can access the code from here. So this is it for this tutorial. Thank you so much for watching. See you in the next video.